Hello, Jacksonites. Welcome to just a random fun topic that I've been wanting to do for a little while. Joined today by Seanie Boy from JTISREBORN.
Groovy.
Today, he and I, now that I have finally seen the entirety of this franchise, we will be ranking the Evil Dead series from worst to best. Now, I can't speak for Shawnee Boy, but for myself, now I wouldn't quite say that I am a huge fan of the Evil Dead series, but I do like a majority of the franchise. I was introduced to the Evil Dead series thanks to James Rolfe through his first season of Monster Madness. And it was a series that kind of intrigued me, but it was never super high on my horror movie bucket list. But the first one I ever saw was the first movie, and I just kept going from there. And with the release of Evil Dead Rise on DVD, and subsequently getting my hands on the Ash versus Evil Dead complete series, also from work for $15. I was just like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to finish the franchise and I'm going to find somebody who's a gargantuan fan to rank this series with. Now, originally, I would have wanted to have Horror and Metal or Hellhound from the Horror and Metal channel because his all time favorite horror film is Evil Dead 2, but he is unavailable. So I go for the second best with good old Shawnee Boy. So, how did you get introduced to the Evil Dead series?
I've been watching Evil Dead since I was a kid. I don't know if I watched Army of Darkness or Evil Dead 2 first. I think it might have been Evil Dead 2 because my uncle had kind of got like I actually watched Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness long before I saw the first movie. So I saw the first movie last. Obviously this is back before like the remake or reboot or whatever you want to call it came out. But I mean like I don't know, like I can't remember the first time I watched Evil Dead 2, but we would watch Evil Dead 2. We'd have like little marathons. You watch 2 and then Army of Darkness, and then we finally got the first movie, and then we had like a 3 movie marathon. Like as a kid, like with my cousins and my uncle and all that, we go and we watch it all. And then like Bruce Campbell, like Army of Darkness is the one I'd watch on repeat the most. I mean, look at this. I got it. I got it. I know your damn words. And of course, I actually just met Bruce Campbell like just under 2 weeks ago. Hello, Bruce. If you're watching this, which I know you're not, you're really, really cool. I don't know. Bruce Campbell's just the fucking man. Like, it's just so great.
I'm
Like
saying
I said,
hello to Vic. She's in the comments.
oh, hello.
Continue.
But yeah, like I said, Evil Dead's just been kind of something. You ever like been a fan of something you've watched for so long you don't know how your fandom kind of began?
Godzilla.
Yeah, exactly. I don't remember the first Godzilla movie I saw. I don't
I
remember
do.
when I first saw Jaws. I don't remember when I first saw Batman. It's just kind of always been there in the back of my head. So yeah, you thumbs it down. But there are Batman movies you like, so screw you. But yeah.
Well,
So
there's
like I
going to
said,
be scenes of the Flash movie that I know for a fact I'm going to dislike. Moving on.
when you eventually, I thought you weren't going to watch it though.
Nah, I'll buy it on Redbox.
Okay, so there are some cool scenes, like the ending. Gotta laugh at me when you
Moving
see.
on.
But anyways, yeah. So like I said, I've just been a huge Evil Dead fan since as far back as I can remember. Army of Darkness was a movie I'd watch on repeat constantly. Evil Dead 2 was another one I watched quite a bit, but not as much as Army of Darkness, which kind of gives hints at things to come in this list. And then of course the remake came out, and I saw that, and I had a really good time. And then finally, when Ash versus Evil Dead was announced, that was kind of like the show I'd watch with my whole family. Uh, that was the family bonding show. Was just this hard like TVMA show where a man literally gets dragged up. I can't even say it out loud. Where a man literally gets dragged up the asshole of something.
I'm in the butt.
You know what? Just go ahead and get started. I can't even say it out loud.
Well, I will say I do appreciate the legacy that the Evil Dead series has. You can't deny that this is definitely a cult horror franchise, kind of along similar lines of something like the Child's Play series or the Phantasm series, or
Hellraiser.
no, I wouldn't say that.
Evil Dead's actually made more money than Hellraiser at the box office.
Well, deservedly so.
Yeah.
It's definitely a cult franchise, but I love the fan base that it has. I've yet to see really any Evil Dead fan that's kind of an asshole.
Except for me, of course.
You might have to eat your words regarding me. But I do also appreciate the legacy that this series has in terms of being a horror comedy franchise. This is just seemingly the one franchise that, in my opinion at least, perfectly balances being gory, violent, and fucked up as all living
And
shit,
funny as shit.
and funny, over the top, goofy, and ridiculous as shit. And it somehow merges those two perfectly, more than any other horror franchise. Even better than the Leprechaun series.
It's that Sam Raimi touch. That's
Yep,
what the secret is.
it really is.
I mean, he kind of like, even like what was that one? Drag Me to Hell was actually a pretty good one. Like, it's kind of Evil Dead light, but there's some funny
I've never
bits.
seen that. Outside of Evil Dead and Spider-Man, I'm very unfamiliar. Oh, and The Quick and the Dead. I'm very
Darkman.
unfamiliar.
You see Darkman?
I have seen Darkman.
That one's pretty good.
Rip off of RoboCop.
I wouldn't say rip off of RoboCop.
It's very similar to RoboCop, but that's beside the point.
Check the fucking elephant. I don't know. That was kind of funny. But anyways,
since you're my guest, Seanie Boy, you can start off the ranking list from. We have 8 installments here.
Right, because we're splitting Ash vs. Evil Dead into 3 parts because of 3 separate seasons. Otherwise, I would have just put it in one big thing because it's like they're kind of interchangeable. But I had to kind of think about it, and when I think kind of like when I go to my ranking of that, it's kind of more based on the more memorable moments from the specific seasons. Now, yeah, so they're all like closely lined together because I absolutely love that show. But yeah, we'll get to that one later on. But anyways, so starting in at number 8 for me personally is the original The Evil Dead. I even got the Necronomicon here. But
and to go along with the occasion, before we get started, word from our sponsor.
I have no drink, so glub 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 glub. What's your drink today?
In order to keep your sponsors going, be sure to shop smart, shop S-Mart. I got my good old boomstick here.
God, that movie. Continue. But anyways, so yeah, for last place, I do have the original film. Now, the ambition of the filmmakers and just the hell they kind of went through to get this movie made is very commendable. They had very little money. They had to put a stake up in like Bruce Campbell's property. But it's kind of more of a prototype thing. It's low budget. The characters aren't quite as memorable because like they're kind of just figuring things out really for the first time. This is their first movie. And even Ash, who is, in my opinion, the greatest horror protagonist of all time, wasn't quite the Ash that everyone kind of knows and loves. Like he has to kind of develop into that character like as the movie's kind of
like excuse me.
No, maybe I shouldn't talk. No, if you're going to interrupt me like that with your ass belches, fucker. But anyways, so yeah, the first movie I enjoy, but it's always kind of been my least favorite, mostly because it's kind of it doesn't. The other movies are just so much better, and even the show I think is just far superior. It's not quite like super scary. It's got some memorable moments. The tree sequence. I mean, how can you not forget that? Oh. But like the characters and like kind of the comedy, just it's not quite like I don't know because the other movies just do it just so much better. Like the first movie is kind of prototypical, still good, but not incredible like as the sequels kind of get. Like I said, just because I've seen like the rest of the series at this point, I just know it gets so much better. So it's kind of like you with Halloween, right? You don't really love the first movie, but there's other sequels that you quite enjoy. So, but like, I mean, I enjoy the first Evil Dead movie, but it's not one I go back to revisit as much. I'd rather just watch Evil Dead 2 because it kind of remakes the first movie anyways, or Army of Darkness, of course, and then the Evil Dead TV series and just kind of anything else. Like the first movie is just kind of prototypical. It's got some like good camera angles in that because Sam Raimi's like really good at kind of creating those things because he was a magician. So he was able to kind of like get these interesting kind of visual like angles and all that and kind of figure things out. But they get better as they go along. It's their first thing. I mean, when we all start out doing something, we're not quite as good. Our skills aren't quite as refined, but they definitely get better as they go along. So, yeah, like I said, I like the first one, but I think they do get better. So, which is good. You want to improve as you go along.
Similar to Seanie Boy, I don't really think there's a bad movie or season in this series, though there are lesser installments. And the top three for me, I find to be the weakest of the series for different reasons overall. So at the very bottom of the barrel, this is the closest to coming to a point where I'm just like, I don't really care for this movie. There's a scant few things about it that I do like, but if I was to ever binge this series, this is the one that I know for a fact that I would skip. And for me, the very bottom of the barrel is Army of Darkness. Yeah, this one doesn't do it for me very much. I think I just broke him. For
You sit
me,
there and you
it's
quote "Shop smart, shop S smart," and you put this at the bottom.
um yeah, this one just didn't do much for me. It's too short. Well, okay. Every single installment of the Evil Dead series, in my opinion, is too short. Similar to the Universal horror cycle.
Now, have you watched both the theatrical and director's cuts of this movie?
I have. I still
Oh.
think this movie is way too short. I'm pretty sure this is the shortest of the whole series.
There's also a lot of studio interference in each cut, but it's still very much Sam Raimi's vision.
Sure, but like you just said, the studio interference doesn't really help. This kind of reminds me in many ways of Phantasm 2. The studio just wanted to make this movie as mainstream and all crowd pleasing as possible. But with those efforts, it takes away the charm of what makes this movie Evil Dead. So then this comes off as being really Diet Evil Dead.
Yeah, but at the same time, it gives us the most iconic Ash.
But it with that attempt to be tame or to be mainstream, this is hands down the tamest Evil Dead film of the whole series, in my opinion.
Oh,
Sure,
absolutely.
there's that dude that gets slurped into the dungeon, and then out comes this big geyser of blood. But that's not really violent, in my opinion. That's just ridiculous and over the top.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And
I
this
like
movie
the
is quite hokey.
yeah, this movie is very hokey.
So many
And
memorable lines too.
yeah, Klaatu, Barata. um,
Bruce Campbell's performance is on
this
another level.
is my boomstick. There are things to like about this movie. The effects are good. It's definitely, well, I wouldn't say it's the funniest. But it's one of the funniest. It has some of the funniest moments, like Ash versus Evil Ash.
All right. Fuck out of my face.
Um,
You know your
the
shoelace is
fight
untied.
scenes are entertaining.
It's like a swashbuckler in a way with the music and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like that aspect to it. I know it's not quite like as horror oriented. It feels more like an action swashbuckler, but I don't mind the fact that it kind of switches genres. Because Ash is just so entertaining in the movie with every line that he says, and he's also like he's smart, but he's also a complete moron at the same time. I just love the fact that he's still pitching like S smart and like you'll find this in the sporting goods department as if anybody knows what the fuck he's talking about.
Anyway, so yeah, there's things to like about it. It does, well, no. Another thing that holds this movie back for me, compared to the rest of the franchise, especially with Ash versus Evil Dead, at least not to my knowledge, never even remotely mentioning the events of this
They
movie.
do. He's driving drunk or high in the car. He's like, "This reminds me of the time we went back in time to the Middle Ages."
Okay, but still, outside of
But that was
that,
a legal issue, so they couldn't reference it until that season. So,
compared to the rest of the franchise, Army of Darkness sticks out like the black sheep of the series.
but
I
it's also
could
kind of the
watch
most iconic, though.
I could watch the whole series without Army of Darkness, and I would not feel like I'm missing anything with this. I do stress this isn't a bad movie by any means, but just of the Evil Dead series, if I'm going to watch an Evil Dead movie, I'm never going to pick this one. This to me is the weakest of the series for me. You're number 7.
For number 7, I'm going to go with Evil Dead Rise. Now, I've only seen this movie once. It came out this past year.
Well, me too.
Right, right. So I think it has the best title reveal of all the movies I've seen this past year. Like the way she rises up out of the water and the title like credits just kind of roar up with her. I'm like, that was pretty cool. But I think because like I had just gotten off Ash vs. Evil Dead, the TV show, kind of going into this one, it didn't really feel like it pushed the envelope, and it didn't quite have the memorable batch of characters. Now the mom is quite good, but I mean, it just felt like they were. It didn't. It's missing Ash. I think that's kind of one of the key ingredients, or like a character on the level of Ash. I think the mom did pretty good. There's some memorable sequences, but it didn't quite push the envelope for me. And I think coming off the TV show, going into this movie, it felt like a step down. Not to say any of it's really bad or anything like that. I just wanted to. I wanted to love it. Box office wise, it's the highest grossing film in the franchise. It actually did quite
Somehow.
well. Yeah, I know. I'm kind of surprised. And I think there are some like I said, the mom in the movie, she's quite good. But like everyone else, like I said, they're doing fine. It's got some funny evil moments, like the eye moment. I think was pretty good. And like I said, I'm glad it kind of did a bit of a different approach with the whole high rise element to it. And I'm glad it did well enough that they're going to potentially do more movies and hopefully cross over with Ash, because I know Bruce Campbell has been kind of toying with the idea, even though he said he was retired. But he did say if Sam Raimi were to direct it, he would come back. Which, Sam, for God's sakes, make another Evil Dead movie.
Please, dude,
Please.
stop fucking teasing us.
He wants to. He really does. But
what the hell's stopping him?
I don't know. Like I said, I'm glad the newest movie did well so that we can get more. I do need to rewatch it again. I think there's an unrated cut, right? Maybe. I don't know. But like I said, there's some good elements to it. It just didn't quite hit the mark for me like some of the other films. I like it more than the original, but compared to some of the other films in the franchise, it didn't feel as Evil Dead to me, if that makes sense. I don't know. Like I think because the Deadites weren't really like, they didn't stand outside of the mom. Like the other ones didn't really stand out as much. Maybe it's because I just came off the show, and maybe it's because I really am missing Bruce Campbell in this movie. He does have kind of like just one line, but it just, Evil Dead without Bruce Campbell, it just feels kind of empty. I know he was a producer, and I know he has like one voice cameo in the film, but not having him there, it's missing. It's missing him. Like Ash was just such a good protagonist that this movie didn't quite have that. Because even the 2013 film, I thought Jane Levy was really good, and I thought she made for a good protagonist kind of going forward if they ever decide to bring her back. But yeah, I still like. I need to see this one again to really kind of judge it, because I just saw it once in the theaters, and my standards for Evil Dead are really high. It didn't quite live up to those standards for me, but you know, there's still some good stuff in there, and it's Evil Dead. There are no bad entries in this franchise, but yeah, so that's my thoughts on Evil Dead Rise. You can check out my after the movie to hear more thoughts on it. So yeah, number 7.
My number 7 is Ash vs. Evil Dead Season 2. Back when Trevor Boy and I were talking, we did go on quite a bit of an Evil Dead spiel. And when I asked him what his least favorite installment was, I didn't even finish my question. And he just said Ash vs. Evil Dead Season 2. And he went on a spiel and explaining why it's such a chore to sit through. And in 2020, I finally did sit down and watch Season 2. And yep, he's right. Now, Ash vs. Evil Dead Season 2, it has some good moments. I think the first 2 episodes are quite solid, especially the fucking morgue scene when Ash is going up in that corpse's ass.
Oh my God, that scene. I remember that scene, seeing it for the first time. I think I watched it with like my dad, my brother, and I think my sister. We were laughing so fucking hard. You could hear it like throughout the entire neighborhood. Like,
I'm in the butt.
it was like so fucking gross, but also like one of the funniest fucking things ever. It's it's arguably the most disgusting scene in TV history, like one of the most shocking scenes in TV history. Like, and just the fact that he gets dragged, you're like, oh no, 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 no. So, and then they
It
went
feels
there,
like
like,
something out of Peter Jackson's Brain Dead.
right? He's like, get your dick off my face. There's this
um,
town is only big enough for one
and the
asshole.
last 2 episodes of the season, namely all the scenes at the cabin at
With
the very end.
Henrietta,
Yeah,
that
with Henrietta. That's when I was like, wow, this actually feels like Evil Dead. But
that's
that middle chunk of
and that was with Ball, right?
huh?
That was with Ball, the demon guy.
The one who looks like Diet Brad Dourif? Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Was Ashley Slashy in season 2?
I don't remember.
Yeah. Because season 3 was Ruby and Ash's daughter.
Yep. Anyway, so but that middle 6 or 7 episodes between that, God damn, it's just a total snooze fest. I don't like seeing possessed Ash go on a killing spree. This whole body swapping game that the main villain has throughout the season just bores the living shit out of me. Hands down, he is the weakest villain of the entire Evil Dead franchise, in my opinion.
Yeah, Ball was just kind of okay.
He's very non-threatening to me. He's just a body swapper.
Or as I call him, Bill.
Sure, I'll call him that too, because I don't even remember his name. I just think of Brad Dourif, because he looks like Brad Dourif.
He does look like Brad Dourif.
A lot. He really gets interesting when Ash starts beating the shit out of him at the very end of the season. I've only seen season 2 once, and admittedly, actually, a lot of these installments I've seen only once.
Yeah, but season 2 brings in Ash's dad. We have Chet, played by
Ash's dad, played by the $6 million man himself, Lee Major. Is it Lee Majors? Yeah, Lee Majors. I mean, odd choice, but oddly fitting too, because he acts a lot like Bruce Campbell, and he does low-key look like an older Bruce Campbell.
He kind of does, yeah.
When he's killed off, it's very predictable and telegraphed as fuck, but it at least is a gnarly kill. So season 2 has moments, but really,
Nick,
huh?
The fight with Henrietta, the one line, how about some nice warm milk from Granny?
Feels good inside me.
The fact that they were able to convince Ted Raimi to put that fucking suit on again because Evil Dead 2 was like one of the most miserable experiences. Anyway, that fight scene was so fucking funny.
And it was cool that they both brought back Ted Raimi, and they brought back Ash's sister from the original movie,
Cheryl.
Yeah, that's Cheryl. So that's cool. That was a nice bit of fan service. But just overall, this season should not have been 10 episodes. You easily could have cut this in half, and it would have had
to get Ashy Slashy too. I don't know, like, you know, we'll get to. I can't talk.
Excuse me. Yeah, season 2, it's just a snooze fest. It's got some high highs, but it's also got some really low ass lows for me. And this is also one installment where I'm just like, can I just watch like 2 episodes and that's it? Yeah, this one don't do it for me. All right. Your number 6.
Evil Dead 2013. Yes, that's right. The 2013 film, it's just called Evil Dead because the original is called The Evil Dead. It's like a Final Destination thing. But yeah, so this one came out in theaters. I was really excited to see it because it was like the first Evil Dead movie I could actually get to see on the big screen. And I had a really good time with it. It was darkly funny, which is Deadites to me are supposed to be real assholes. And I think the story of it, of having like this drug addict who you don't know if she's hallucinating or not because they're trying to like help her go through a withdrawal situation, and she's the one who ends up getting possessed. I thought that was a pretty good, interesting like lead take on it. Jane Levy as this lead character, Mia, I thought she was phenomenal. Like the way she plays the Deadite, and then the way she's kind of you think her brother's going to be the main hero. They kind of switch it up by having her go from being possessed back to kind of normal, then kind of facing like demonic things and losing her arm like she's Ash and all that. And of course, the post-credit scene where Bruce Campbell's just like, groovy. Like that to me was like one of the coolest things to see in theaters because just like I really want Ash back. I mean, I was excited for the remake when it came out, or is it a continuation or something? I don't know. Evil Dead continuity makes no sense, but I feel like that's kind of
Not
the
at
joke.
all.
But I feel like that's kind of the joke of it. Like they intentionally like change it every single time. So
The comics and video games don't help either.
right. And like I said, I think that's kind of the joke though, is that the continuity is all over the place, like every single time. And I think that kind of makes it funny. You just have to kind of roll with it. But there's some really violent, grotesque death scenes, like in the 2013 film, like way more than Evil Dead Rise was. Oh yeah, the tongue thing, or when she's like down in the cellar. There was actually a few moments that actually kind of scared me when I saw it in theaters. Um, they of course recreate sort of the tree scene, but I feel like a little bit more uncomfortable. It's got like this really kind of ugly, gnarly look to it. Um, there's some moments where you don't necessarily know where it's going to go, like the opening sequence, for instance. Um, Strong, bloody, violent deaths. I think they said they had the record amount of like blood for a movie or something at the time because there's just so many violent deaths. The kind of con of that movie is that like the other cast members don't really do much to stand out, except for Jane Levy, who's fantastic in the film. The other ones get better as they become deadites, but outside of her, like her brother's just kind of there. Like no, that's kind of the issue I think with some of the lesser or the ones that I kind of have lower in the list is the characters don't really do as much to kind of stand out. Um, Unlike the characters, I think, as we kind of get later on in the series. But as you kind of notice, like I kind of have like the two movies not made by Sam Raimi kind of near the bottom, and the first movie, of course, because that's kind of getting their footing. But I still like the 2013 film. I rewatched it after I saw Evil Dead Rise, and I still like it more. And it's a pretty good time. Like there's a lot of really good, memorable moments in it. But yeah, so that's where I got it.
My number 6 is Evil Dead Rise. I did like this movie. I don't have any major grievances with it, but the main thing that I think holds this movie back for me and why it's so low, because I was actually quite excited to see this. But what really hurts this, this was not worth the 2-year fucking delay. Because wasn't this originally supposed to come out sometime in 2021?
I have no idea, to tell you the
I'm
truth.
pretty sure it was.
I think because it was supposed to be an HBO Max movie, but the test screenings went so well that they pushed it to theaters. And it was the right move ultimately because this became the highest grossing film in the franchise.
That may be so, but the film in its current state, I don't really think is worth that 2-year delay. Because ultimately, it's just an Evil Dead movie for
Mm-hmm.
me. I do agree with Seanie Boy. While this movie does have some pretty gnarly and grotesque moments, namely the chick who eats and swallows the glass and shreds the shit out of her throat, or
Mommy's with the maggots now.
that's gnarly too. And
Nothing. I like as soon as she like walks past the door, I start like thinking back to the movie The Cable Guy. I just keep wanting to see Jim Carrey pop up in the background. Cable Guy, because they have that little shot through the eye hole of it.
And the Marauder being turned into 4,000 gallons of fake blood was also quite gnarly.
Mm-hmm. Gotta love the blood.
And the mom character, she also is very spooky and freaky to look at. She definitely has that whack, weird ass, creepy smile.
Yep. I do wish she would have been allowed to go a little bit further, though. I think it just feels it feels a little restrained.
I agree. Yeah, I do think now this movie isn't tame by any means, but it's just not quite as violent as it should be. And also because I mean, I think that would be a cool concept to unleash the Necronomicon in a crowded ghetto ass high-rise building. But because it's empty, save for 6 or 7 people, that makes it feel very restrained in and of itself,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately.
The TV show went a little bit further by having like monsters out and everything.
Uh-huh.
So, but this one,
Um,
it felt a little too restrained. The opening was great.
the opening was very good, and the title sequence was also very good. It
Yeah,
gives
like
it
I
this
said, best
really
title drop of the year, I'd say.
big badass epic feel, like Evil Dead Rise.
Like that was awesome. Like that was a fantastic title reveal.
And then the rest of the movie, it doesn't necessarily go downhill, but it feels like it's content at staying at the same level of like passable.
Right.
Also, this should have been a sequel to the 2013 remake, in my opinion.
Maybe it kind of is. I don't know. Like
I
Evil Dead.
don't know. I don't think it is, but and especially with the director saying it's in the same series, it's just a different book. So how many fucking copies of the Necronomicon have been made?
3.
Why are there 3 versions of the Necronomicon?
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Nobody said anything about 3 books because that's what Bruce Campbell said. There's 3 books in Army of Darkness, so therefore there's 3 books out there. And the thing is, the idea is maybe to kind of bring the 3 books together in like a future movie. So, but we got
Well,
to have
that
Ash
in and
back.
of itself, this should not be considered a sequel. I don't know why it
It's kind of
is.
a standalone movie.
It's very standalone, yeah. And with this being a standalone movie, while it's fine, at that same time too, it kind of feels like Evil Dead in name only at times, in my opinion. And especially, like, I think the 2013 movie makes it work, but this is not how you do Evil Dead without Ash, in my opinion. It's even though, again, both Sam and Bruce were executive producers. To me, that kind of feels like legacy credits, even though it's not. It brings to mind Toby Hooper being credited as an executive producer for Leatherface. This
Mm-hmm.
doesn't really feel as much like Evil Dead, in my opinion.
Right. They're involved in the movies, but not having Ash, it feels empty, doesn't it? Like, because he is
Kind
like,
of.
I know
Now,
the first movie, he's not really up to par as the
don't get me
character.
wrong. I did really enjoy this movie. Again, it's got some gnarly moments. It's got some good gore. It definitely is probably the most suspenseful of the whole Evil Dead series. And it might be kind of tied with the remake as being like the most dark. Like, this movie is not really goofy, in my opinion. This one takes itself the most seriously, but with it taking itself seriously, that too, in and of itself, kind of doesn't really make it feel like Evil Dead all that much.
Mm-hmm.
Still, though, I did enjoy Evil Dead Rise, one of the better films of 2023 thus far, but it's definitely low for the Evil Dead series. I too probably would like it more if I was to rewatch it, or I might like it less. Who knows? But I think if I watched it a second or third time, I'd probably have more to say about it. But this was not worth the 2-year delay. No, sir.
Okie dokie. Well, anyways, going at number 5, I'm going to go with Evil Dead 2, Dead by Dawn. Love this movie. I think it's fantastic. It's a much better film than the first film. This is where the Evil Dead tone really kind of took off because this is where the horror comedy aspects really got played off. Like the cheesiness, the Sam Raimi crazy directions. Like they had more money. The badass moments, Ash's hand getting possessed. No, Bruce Campbell is really good in this one, but he's not quite the Ash we love until Army of Darkness, I want to say. Like the iconic Ash, but like he's still really great in this thing. He's a lot better than he was in the first film. Like he gets a chainsaw arm. We get the badass moments, the crazy cliffhanger where they end up back in the Middle Ages. Yeah, like that's fucking badass. I'll swallow your soul. I'll swallow your soul. Swallow this.
Swallow this.
There's so many memorable like moments sprinkled in throughout the film. You have Linda, his girlfriend, and just kind of her crazy batshitness, if you will. You have the hillbilly Bob and Joe, and he just gets like run through a blender. Henrietta, of course, being like the iconic main villain of the film, where she kind of turns into that crazy ass looking puppet, and you get the badass stop motion fight scenes. This is where we first get Ash to say the line "groovy," and it's so badass and awesome. Um, I just really love Evil Dead 2. It's a very entertaining film. Its pacing moves along much faster than the first film. Like it gets you right into it. Some people say like, how is it really a sequel when the other characters aren't there? So basically, in Bruce Campbell's eyes, when Ash gets kind of like launched in the air, that's supposed to be like the ending of the first movie. Like that's
Mhm.
where they kind of like that's the connection with it, and then it's just kind of Ash on his own as he's doing those crazy camera angles. You get a bit of evil Ash. You get the crazy camera work where he's kind of being chased through the woods and everything like that. It's funnier. It's certainly a lot bloodier. There's a lot of bloody
Mhm.
violence in it. It's fantastic, and it's very innovative. Like it's a very creative horror film, especially for a horror sequel. They went all out for it, and I think they made a much better movie than the first film. I mean, Evil Dead 2 is a lot of people's favorite horror film. Like it's easy to see why. I think it's a great movie. I like it a lot more than the first. Like it a lot more than some of these other films that I mentioned beforehand. But that's really where Evil Dead kind of found its tone. And then I feel like they kind of perfected it, or it perfected like the character of Ash in Army of Darkness. And then Ash vs. Evil Dead is kind of the perfect bridge between the gore of Evil Dead 2 with the character of Ash from Army of Darkness. So, but I really like Evil Dead 2.
My number 5 is Ash versus Evil Dead Season 3. Now, this was a lot better than Season 2, obviously. It was funnier. Well, no, I wouldn't say it's funnier, but it's more consistently funny. It's also more consistently violent and fucked up. It just
The
has,
bank scene.
yep. It has a more
I kind of wish they went a little further with it though, because season 2 had him literally dragged up something gas. Like you should have had him just get attacked with it or something.
It has a more consistent tone. It also has a much better villain. We're back to having Ruby as the main villain.
Poor Ruby, I'm melting. Fuck off.
Um, I also like the introduction of. I thought I was gonna hate her guts, but Ash's daughter, I didn't really mind her. We finally fucking have Pablo and Kelly.
Kelly, yep.
Yeah, Kelly finally hook up after 29 episodes of teasing.
Mm-hmm.
This feels like it also has a big main event level feel,
Right.
which is nice. But the sole thing that holds this season back and why it's at my number 5,
The cliffhanger ending.
God damn mother
Every time.
fucking cliffhanger ending.
Fuck you, Stars. I was so mad when they canceled. Right, because every time they try to do post-apocalyptic Evil Dead, which is something they've been trying to do since Army of Darkness, something always goes wrong. And it's bullshit. I was so mad when I heard the show was canceled. The thing is, people actually started watching it on Netflix. Like, well, why did you watch it? Just like, did you have Stars? What the hell is Stars? Exactly. I mean, Stars was good and it let them kind of go unleashed a bit with the content. But the fact that they didn't make season 4, fuck it.
Yeah. And you know what? When this show first debuted, I jinxed it because I was saying this is going to last 3 seasons and that's it.
This is all your fault, Nick. How dare you?
Well, I was thinking, you know what? We can't be this lucky. We've waited for almost 25 years for another installment of Evil Dead. We finally get it, and it's a show. So we were like, yes, we have more than we've ever had before. But I knew it wasn't going to last. We're not that lucky.
I've heard they're like working on a continuation, though.
They should have made at least a 4th season. If they made an even 4, it would have been fine. Even had they ended the series with a cliffhanger, at least we would have had 40 episodes worth of content.
Mm-hmm.
May not sound like much of a difference with having 40 instead of 30, but 30 episodes really is not enough for this series to grow and breathe. It's just not enough for me. But I did like this season a lot more. I was dreading because I knew that the show ended on a cliffhanger. So I was dreading for so long. I did not watch this season until 2 months ago.
And it's really good. Like, there's a lot of great stuff in it, but the issue is that
That
cliffhanger ending.
fucking cliffhanger ending. I was dreading that goddamn ending, and I was like, "Oh, fuck it. I'll finally fucking watch it."
And
And
it's
it
good, but it's like if they were given the chance to tell it, it wouldn't feel as bad. But knowing
no,
it's
not
kind
at
of the
all. It's Amazing Spider-Man 2 syndrome. Not nearly as frustrating because at least this season is still entertaining to watch.
yeah, it
It's
doesn't
just the
suck like
last 10
Amazing
minutes
Spider-Man
that
2.
suck. Huh?
And it doesn't suck like Amazing Spider-Man 2.
That too, yeah. Um, but fuck, it's that goddamn cliffhanger. Like, fuck you, Stars.
Well, hopefully
Why
they get the
didn't
chance to
Netflix get
continue
their
it
hands on this and give it a 4th season?
because Netflix is weird. But anyways, they
They
are
should.
supposedly working on a continuation of it. I don't know if it'll be
I'll
live
believe it
action.
when I see it.
Yeah, I think it might be animated though. But you know what? I don't care. As long as because with animation they can go all out, but at least it would be a continuation.
Just please don't have the animation studio that does the anime Godzilla trilogy do the animation.
No, they would not allow it because that actually has personality. Or the show
Right.
actually is supposed to have personality. That does not. But
Let the studio that does Castlevania or
the Skull
Devil
Island.
May Cry Baby.
So, but anyways, so
Yeah,
speaking of Ash vs. Evil Dead,
season 3 is entertaining. It's a lot better than the previous 3, but it's that ending, man. It just kills it.
all right. Speaking of my number 4 pick, Ash vs. Evil Dead season 3. Um, I really like all three. See, that's what I mean. I had to kind of like figure out which ones like between 2, 1, and 3 like were my favorites and all that because it's like they're kind of interchangeable for me. But I think the thing that held 3 back was the cliffhanger ending that just really frustrates me because the season itself like has some really entertaining bits. I mean, you have Ash at the high school. You have Ash at the sperm bank, which is both like really funny. It's such a gross
Cody, they got you too.
yeah, I just think, like I said, seasons 1 and 2, like, because season 3 felt like the distant season. I feel like it felt a little bit more disconnected from the first two. But there's some generally like really funny stuff. We get a little bit more into the backstory of Ash's dad. There's some funny bits with Ruby. We meet his daughter. The the funeral scene where he comes out of the casket. Oh man, like there's just so many funny bits in the show. I just like the 3 is the one I've watched the least, mostly I think because of that cliffhanger ending, but it has some genuinely like great, awesome moments kind of sprinkled throughout the whole thing. Ash is kind of like recognized as a bit of a hero, but then that gets kind of played like downside a little bit when we have the evil Ash in there. You have the band death scenes, and you have a lot of other crazy ass stuff that kind of goes on in this season. You have a giant kaiju sized deadite, that monster that appears at the end. But it's that cliffhanger ending that just is it's the reason why I don't really go back and because like I get excited watching the show, but then you get to that cliffhanger ending and it just is like,
Ugh.
no, 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 no. I don't want to see it just I love the show so much too. It was my favorite show to watch on TV. And then when I heard they were canceling it, I just like I almost like wanted to shed a tear of just sadness because it just frustrated me so much the fact that we lost this amazing show because of that. But like I said, there's some funny bits there. Ash and his dad, and like when he has to go face off this thing, like he's about to like, all right, what are we gonna do? And he just gets really stoned off his ass. like Bruce Campbell is so good as Ash, but like
I'm
I
a
really
ghost,
hope that
dumbass.
technically this isn't the last time he played Ash because like he voices Ash in the Evil Dead video game, which is a fun game. They have kind of little, I guess, a little bit of story missions, if you will, in that game. But it's just I need Ash back. Like I just like going from this to like Evil Dead Rise. It's just
It does feel like a massive downgrade,
right
admittedly.
because
Yeah.
like this one like goes all out with the gore, the comedy's on point, and I have the more memorable characters to kind of like make this stand out more. Because even the Deadites in Evil Dead Rise, they don't have the funny personalities. Like Deadites need to be assholes, but they need to be funny too. Like that distinct blend of comedy and horror is what makes Evil Dead special. They really found their groove in Evil Dead 2, and like because even the remake has some genuinely like dark, funny things with the Deadites, like being total assholes, and that dark,
Oh,
sick sense of humor.
and I did like the even though it ended very badly, I did like the scene when Kelly actually tried to fight Ruby all by herself.
Yep.
Kelly is one of my favorite characters.
Oh, Kelly's great. She gets better as the show goes on. I'm gonna fuck your face with bullets or something like that. Like that was a pretty great line. So, but like season 3 is the one I'm not like as into as I am the first 2 seasons. Like I said, because of the cliffhanger ending, it does have its great scenes for sure. I mean, Ash at a sperm bank. I do feel like they should have went a little bit further with it though. I know it's disgusting, but we had Ashley like shoved up something's asshole, and as soon as he walked in the bank, like I remember, like I said, this is the show I watched with the fam. We all just
I know where this is going.
You just know it's gonna go bad. And then but it's kind of funny too with his like ridiculous dodging skills, where he's able to keep like doing flips in the air to touch like the. They're just flinging cum at him. And then like he's trying to like. Oh, you know why I'm here. And then the magazine comes to life and he's just oh, but man.
Fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, and then of course, poor Ruby, I'm melting. Fuck off. Like that line just like made me pee. Like it was just so funny. But yeah, there's so many great things in the show. I just think I do need to rewatch season 3 again because it's the one I'm like the least familiar with, as I am with the first 2 seasons, but this list is making me want to go back and watch it. I think I will soon. But yeah, I still like season 3 quite a bit. It's just that ending kind of like takes it down a notch for me. So like I said, the show, like it's tough for me to pick like favorite seasons sometimes with it because they're kind of like interchangeable a little bit at times. But I'm just trying to think like the most memorable moments or some of my favorite like bits in that, like, but it's kind of tough sometimes. But I still love the show. I think
it's your number 6 again.
Number 6 was 8 was the Evil Dead original, 7 was Evil Dead Rise, 6 was Evil Dead 2013, 5 Evil Dead 2, 4 Ash vs. Evil Dead season 3.
Okay.
I'm going to write this down.
Yes, I am.
So,
alrighty. My number 4 is Evil Dead 2, Dead by Dawn.
Dead by Dawn. Dead by Dawn. Dead by Dawn.
Now, I don't think this is a bad movie, but I do think this is the most overrated of the entire Evil Dead series. Odd, considering I have it at number 4. It's in my top 4. So I like the movie. It's very innovative. It's very original. It's a good but also weird continuation of the first film. It's got some gnarly kills, fantastic gore, a hilarious performance by Bruce Campbell as Ash, especially with the hand. Especially when he cuts his hand off. Ah!
I mean, we don't compliment Bruce Campbell's physicality for the role quite enough because like Sam would just torture the hell out of him, but I think he kind of respects that.
Of course, it's iconic when he puts together his chainsaw hand and then he gets his gun. Groovy. And at least it has a cliffhanger ending that is properly followed up with my least favorite installment, but still, this movie is just balls out crazy. You can tell this movie had a much larger budget than its predecessor, and Sam took full advantage of that larger budget. More effects, greater production value. It's more over the top. It's more balls out crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It's more funny. Not definitely scary funnier at all, in my opinion.
There's maybe one bit that kind of got me, and that was like the cellar. When Henry Allen pops
I'll give you that. That's kind of gnarly too. So this is a good, fun, entertaining movie. There's just 3 more in the series that I like more than this, but still, Evil Dead 2 is a fun flick. Overrated, but it's a fun flick.
Number 3.
You're number 3.
Ash vs. Evil Dead. Season 1. And I will get into why I like season 2 a little bit more, but we've kind of already gone over it with 2 scenes in particular that stood out to me. I love season 1. Season 1 was like the first episode is like arguably like could have been like my favorite episode of the whole series, if not for
your mother teach you how to knock.
Yeah, like season 1 was kind of like like as soon as it began, the concept, the tone, Bruce Campbell's performance, introducing everyone, I thought it was a pitch
Sam
perfect
Raimi's
pilot.
direction.
Sam Raimi's direction, I thought it was a pitch perfect pilot. Like, and then the final line of this, how does it feel? Groovy. Like, it was perfect. It was a perfect first episode. It established the tone of the show. We had Army of Darkness Ash mixed with Evil Dead 2 gore. It was exactly everything I needed in my life, because like I loved Ash as a character so much. It was the perfect first episode. It kind of drags a little bit when they get to the militia stuff, I feel,
Mm-hmm.
in the first season. That's kind of the weak point for me. But we end up back at the cabin. We get some memorable bits. We get Evil Ash again, which bum knee when they're fighting each other and they have their own ailments. Like that shit to me is just like quintessential like Evil Dead funny. And the fact that they really lean into Ash's age pretty well and just find ways to keep making fun of him. Like he had like
It's
his hair done.
similar to what they do to Arnold at Terminator Genesis.
Right, but like played up way more for laughs. And Bruce Campbell's performance is fantastic. Like when you first get his intro and he's like, "Yeah, looking good, looking sweet," and like he's such an asshole and such a moron too. Like, when he's leaving his little, I forget what they call it. It's like a value stop or whatever. He's like,
value
Williams. Yeah. He's like, move these light bulbs out of the way. He picks them up and he just dumps them.
Sweep under the fucking pallet. Fucking retard.
Or when he has the dolly and then she attacks him, he's like, oh, are you gonna be okay?
Little Larry hate you. Little Larry kill you.
But yeah, like any chance, and then of course the old lady he fights, and just even like Mr. Roper, whatever his name was, like, where are you going? I'm leaving. No, you're not. Like that line delivery just like makes me laugh every single time. And then of course when they meet Kelly's parents and then the mom's possessed and you have that like moment where he's just like, what are you doing? You know you want a piece of this. The comedy is really good. And then of course, like I said, like you get Ruby and you get like the cop lady who's kind of there. But it does kind of drag in the militia bits. That's kind of the weak point of the season for me. I think that's why I think season 2 had some more interesting stuff in between, without the militia stuff. But it does have some funny bits there too. He's like one guy's like, or where the one guy's like, I'm gonna get you pregnant. She's like, oh, I want your sister to be jealous. Like Kelly's great. Like the way she kind of turns that. Pablo I like too. El Jefe. There's just so many memorable moments sprinkled throughout the show, and of course going back to the cabin, the interesting cliffhanger ending. But yeah, like it's, or was it season 1 or 2 where he hides from it, but he's like on the ceiling. Like, you know, the part like how did he ever escape like the cabin, and then he just was like, because you know how he's being chased by
I can't remember. I've only seen season 1 once.
Right. It's either season 1 or 2 where the thing's chasing him, but like the way he kind of hides from it, he's just kind of up in the ceiling. Like, how did he escape from this thing? And he just kind of, because like even in Evil Dead 2, it's kind of like, where the hell did he go? But he's just kind of hanging on the ceiling like that. Like that's just the way he gets out of it. Like I thought that was really funny. But again, like it was so good. And then just the return to the cabin, just kind of everything. Like the soundtrack is really awesome. The song listing that they have, I mean, they have like Deep Purple, they have
Alice Cooper
and all that. Like, I mean, the show has such a great soundtrack with like every episode. I mean, just a phenomenal series, and just Ash being the Ash we know and love from Army of Darkness mixed in with the Evil Dead 2 gore. It was such a damn good season. To me, like it was exactly what I needed. Like I just needed Ash back, and I thought they more than delivered. So I love season 1. I think it's fantastic. I just really love Ash vs. Evil Dead, and it just made me so sad when it got canceled. All right, I need a moment or two to cry. So go ahead, number 3.
My number 3 is Evil Dead 2013. I originally had this as my favorite of the series. Me and Meadow actually rewatched this together. It was my first time seeing it since 2017. So I've seen this only twice, but I've seen the Boots to Reboots episode of Andy Maniacal Cinephile many, many times. And I do agree with a couple of his criticisms, but I still think Evil Dead 2013 is kind of an maybe not a forgotten gem, but it's kind of an overlooked gem.
Mm-hmm.
I choose to call this a remake. I know there's some like debates on whether or not it's like a sequel or a spin-off or it's just set in the OG Evil Dead continuity.
Mm-hmm.
I just see it as a remake. The inclusion of the Sam Raimi car, I think, is just a nod, and all the references to the original movie are just references to me. They're not like the director saying, like, dropping hints saying, "Oh yeah, this is actually in the same continuity as
But
the
they've kind
original."
of like they said some things that were in continuity though with the 2013 film, because originally they wanted to like cross over Ash and Mia's narratives to like make like Army of Darkness 2 or Evil Dead
See, that
whatever.
would have been cool, but that's like the one thing about the Evil Dead community that's kind of just a dick move. Whenever that conversation was brought up, they were just so quick to be like, "No!"
Wait, for real? Because Evil Dead community I've seen like really wanted to have Mia and Ash crossover.
I must have seen the other side of that because everywhere I looked, people were just begging, "Please, no, no, no."
Oh, because like for me, I saw like, yeah, let's make it happen. Like let's
And
cross
the
over.
cameo with Bruce,
I that got a loud reaction in my screen. Like when I saw that, like because I went with like 8 people to see the movie, like my family who's big Evil Dead fans, like a couple of my friends. When that moment happened, we all cheered because like we all just love Bruce Campbell. So like we
I
wanted to see him
think
in the
it
movie.
is cool, but
It's
I
not
don't.
necessary,
Yeah,
but
it
it's
is
cool. But you
unnecessary.
know what? I would you rather there be nothing there?
Honestly, yes, because it would have helped this movie stand on its own more.
Yeah, but I'm glad it's there because well, it's Bruce fucking Campbell. He makes everything better.
But for the most part, this movie is pretty damn fucking awesome. It's got a great look. It looks dark and gritty and grungy. I like the character dynamics. I mean, sure, a lot of them are just like cannon fodder, but at least like there's no bad acting or bad performances in this film, in my opinion. Um, it's got good suspense. It has really good moments of like, at least for me, like deafening silence, especially the scene when Mia is talking to her brother and saying, "There's something in here with us." Yeah, that kind of makes my scalp tighten because, especially with how wide her eyes are,
And she's
you can
like,
tell she is absolutely terrified.
she's so good in the movie.
But the best thing about this movie, hands down, is the kills and the gnarly, fucked up, over the top, crazy ass gore in this movie.
It's not necessarily funny gore like Ash vs Evil
No,
Dead. It's
it's brutal gore,
it's yeah.
but it kind of feels a little bit like Saw in a way, or at least it has that gritty, brutal, tortury feel of Saw.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? I think that actually works
It works for this movie, but
for
I kind
this
of like
movie. Yes.
I like the more campier tone for Evil Dead because I not everything's campy in this world, but like Evil Dead, I feel like is at its best when it has that the the horror comedy down because I feel like that's Evil Dead to me. It's horror in the comedy.
There are some hellaciously gnarly kills in this movie, like the chick at the beginning who gets set on fire and has her fucking head blasted off.
I
When
do
Mia,
feel like they keep changing like the rules of the book, like in each like type of movie though, which like you know what I mean? Like you'd expect one thing and then it kind of shifts to something else. Like, oh, you can get buried and then you come back and you're fine. Uh
sure.
like I don't know, like there's
Anyway,
some iffy things with it at
when
times.
Mia cuts her tongue in half with that fucking razor,
And then
oh
she makes
god.
out with that one chick. Why did you come down to the
When
cellar and
the
let your sister suck your
when the when the one demon stabs the living fuck out of that dude with that needle, that's gnarly.
that one dude
When
just would not die.
yeah, right. When the
You
chick is
can't win, Powers.
peeling her face off with that sharp piece of glass.
And
And of
then standing in
course,
the boiling hot water.
my favorite kill in the whole movie is when Mia takes the chainsaw and rams it down the abomination's throat.
Mm-hmm.
Fucked up beyond belief. This movie is gnarly, dark, fucked up, and violent, and I love it. This is how you do Evil Dead without Ash, and they do it pretty
Yes.
damn well.
Even though he's technically in the movie, but you know what? That's okay. It's a little like extra sprinkles on the Sunday.
The only minor gripe that I have two. Um, while I appreciate that they were like trying to flip, because you think Mia's brother is gonna be the Ash equivalent, but
Mm-hmm.
then he gets killed, and then Mia's the main character. That feels a little rushed and a little too late. But also, Mia's brother is kind of boring.
Yeah, Jane Leno
But
carries the movie.
the main issue, well, I appreciate how many nods and references that there are to the original film. I do think that the movie's plot is just a tad too similar to the original, especially with the trailer. There was a lot of shots in the trailer that blatantly just remade scenes from the original movie, but they never made it in the film.
I think there's an unrated cut I need to pick up the Blu-ray for, where there's more scenes added in.
And then maybe I need to look for that myself too. But Evil Dead 2013, it's a pretty damn solid ass movie. I like it a lot. And it's Meadows' favorite of the entire Evil Dead series.
Yeah, I really like the 2013 film. So, but anyways, going into number 2, Ash versus Evil Dead season 2. I know this was your least favorite, but I'm going to go into the reason why I think it was my favorite of the three. I think because like there's the most enjoyable stuff in it, like in terms of darkly funny. For instance, the first episode with Ash, where he's kind of partying down there, they kind of play on the comedy of like when he had his awesome moment where he puts the chainsaw back on with his arm and all that. Where it's kind of like gets knocked down and he has to fight all those demons like with Ruby and all that. Then of course he has to go to the morgue. And like there's little Three Stooges bits of comedy kind of sprinkled in that I really love too, like where he hits his head on like that little pipe. He's like, "Why I gotta?" He smacks it and he gets like blasted in the face with a bunch of soot. He's like, "My goodness!" And he even breaks the fourth wall at one point where he kind of winks at the camera. Like that got a good laugh out of me. Then of course the morgue scene, which we've gone over a few times, is the most disgusting, but like,
I'm in the butt. I'm in the butt.
like, what was your reaction when you first saw that? Like, were you just like, I could, I
You got
couldn't
it.
breathe. I couldn't breathe. I was laughing so hard because like they went so far the extra mile of the season. And then of course you have the addition of Ted Raimi as Chet, which was great. Great to see him back in here working with Bruce and Sam and that on the show. We get to meet Ash's dad, which is something we never got to meet beforehand. You have the car episodes where you have the kids who like try to take over Ashy Slashy's car. Of course, Ashy Slashy the puppet, which was great. Yeah, Ball or whatever is kind of like not the most exciting villain in the show. He's just like everyone else around him is kind of interesting though. Like we get Puppet Ash in that, which is pretty fun.
See,
Then we go
you know
back.
what's funny? He still would have been a boring villain, but had he actually been played by Brad Dourif, at least he would have been played by Brad Dourif because
Right,
he's
I
always
kind of
fun to watch.
he looked like Brad Dourif light.
A
So
lot.
so I mean he was kind of the weak point of in terms of villains. We needed a little bit better. If we had a better villain, it would have carried the show a little bit better. But we still had some great stuff. Like they travel back in time, of course, and there's some really funny stuff there when they go back in time to the cabin. We have Henrietta there, and like when Ash is like, "How dare you picking on like impersonating a sweet old woman," and then he just starts beating her up, and she's like, "Ah, you're worse than my husband."
That was funny. Yeah.
And then, of course, like he finally lets her go. He's like, "Oh, well, I'm starting to feel like an idiot there." And we come to find out she's actually possessed. And then we get Ash versus Henrietta once again, which I was not expecting. And of course, that's Ted Raimi in the suit again. Which the fact that he did that is beyond me. And that fight scene between Ash and Henrietta is so entertaining, so funny, so fucked up. The part
Especially
where
the
they're
giant cyst that bursts on her ass.
yes, and then of course the part where he's fighting her, and then apparently Ted Raimi came up with this one. She just grabs Ash. She's like, "How about some nice warm milk from Granny?" Like I laughed so hard. It's so gross.
Uh,
Prison rules. Hey, he kicks her. He's like, "Ooh, feels so good inside."
it has moments. But
There's
it's
so
that
many.
damn middle section. It's just such a snoozer.
That's to me that was season one. Like season one, like the with season two had the more interesting stuff because you had Chet and all that in there, and you had Ashy Slashy, which to me was a little bit more exciting than what they did with the malicious stuff in season one. But I still love season one. Like I said, I really like all three seasons quite a bit. But season two had the morgue scene. It had the Henrietta fight. It had Chet. I think his sister came back too in season two. Like,
Mhm.
but yeah, like she came back. There was like some little bits in that in there. The ending was kind of like a good kind of wrap up of the show. Kind of ended there, although they kind of teased things with Ruby coming back and doing her thing. But there's some really great stuff in season two that kind of made it stand out just a little bit more for me. Like I said, the morgue scene just kind of just can't believe that scene. I can't believe I saw a scene where Bruce Campbell gets attacked by the intestines wrap themselves around him and then pull him up something's asshole, and oh god, I'm in the butt. I'm in the butt. Get your dick off my face. Every time I show somebody that scene, because like I'm like, oh, you have to watch this. That's the fucked up Evil Dead shit that I love. It's so messed up, but it's so damn funny. So I like I said, I love all three seasons. Ash is Ash, like at his best. Pretty much it's Army of Darkness Ash with Evil Dead 2 gore, but taken to the next level. Because they're pretty much on like I know Stars kind of sucks for not bringing it, but at least we got 3 seasons out of it, and they were just totally unfiltered with the gore. They're just like, whatever, do whatever you want. There's like no restrictions for it, and I kind of like that aspect because there are some really violent things that happen in that season, but just the little bits things. Of course, Bruce Campbell's performance is spectacular. Like I said, is my favorite horror protagonist of all time. I think he's the greatest horror protagonist ever. There's nobody can match him. And I'm saying protagonist, not antagonist, even though he's great, like as Evil Ash as well. But like Ashley J. Williams is the best like horror character of all time, in my opinion. Like at least like from a lead perspective, he's that damn good because of Bruce Campbell. So sucks we never got Freddy versus Jason versus Ash though.
Well, we got a comic of that at least,
Right,
so
but
that's better
they
than
were
nothing.
apparently going to make the movie, but the studio didn't give Sam Raimi creative freedom. Keep in mind, he just made Spider-Man, but they're like, "Nah, we're not going to give you that creative freedom." And Robert Englund was like, "You know what? If we're going to end Freddy, like, I think the fans would respect Ash being the one to do it."
Sure.
Yeah, like if
All
anyone could do
righty.
it, okay, go ahead. You're number two.
My number 2 is Ash versus Evil Dead season 1.
Oh, so now I know what your number one is, which is my number 8, and my number one is your number 8.
Well, don't give it away, you dick.
Well, how else do you
Anyway,
think? You think they can't figure it out?
Ash versus Evil Dead season 1 was a big pleasant surprise. I did not watch this show when it first aired. I just wasn't nearly as much of an Evil Dead fan at the time. I appreciated like 2015 was really the beginning of what I call the Hollywood Renaissance, where they were actually reaching back into the past and bringing stuff back and giving it proper continuations. And it was a nice energy that Hollywood was going through because we had Jurassic World, we had The Force Awakens, we had Tremors 5, we had Terminator Genesis, and then we had Ash versus Evil Dead. It was like this nice, like, yes, finally, we're getting more of what we've wanted for so long, not this garbage that we've had for the last 10 years. So it was a nice energy that this show was a part of. And when I did finally get interested in checking out the show, I was very impressed. I dug a lot of elements about it. I do agree. The first episode is awesome.
Oh,
I
it's
wish
perfect.
I wish that they could have extended it into like a 90-minute feature film pilot.
Mm-hmm.
Just keep that same energy and that same tone, and it would have been like a perfect sequel film in and of itself
Right.
with an additional 9 episodes of a continuation. But still, in its current form, like this is classic Evil Dead done in modern times.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's a lot of fun. It's got a great hybridization of modern horror elements with old school Evil Dead. It's
Mm-hmm.
got a great hybrid of special effects. There's some crappy CGI here and there, but
Yeah, But you know
like
what?
with the crappy practical effects of the original 3, that kind of just
It's part of the
it,
charm.
it's part of the charm. It's part of the package deal. Like you see it and you're just like, that doesn't look that great, but it is Evil Dead, so it looks goofy and fake and stupid. So, oh well, you just kind of roll with it. This is the best iteration of Ash, in my opinion. Like, specifically in season 1, minus one episode, this is Ash at his best. He's finally embracing, you know what? I am Ashy Slashy, the Demon Slayer. Fuck it. Um, and I love his chemistry with Kelly and Pablo. I love them going around Michigan, killing deadites and kicking ass
Hmm.
left and right.
I like the
Um,
embracing of the Michigan culture, being a Michigander
mhm.
myself. So
Sure, the militia episode does meander a bit. It feels like something more out of The Walking Dead rather than Evil Dead.
yeah, but you know what?
It
Evil
still
Dead's
has
better.
a couple funny moments. What kills the not really kills it, but the one shitty part of this season, in my opinion, is the ending. I can see what they're going for. It's typical idiot Ash, never finishing
Hmm.
what he starts. But that really just did not sit well with me. As soon as things start getting shitty, he's just like, oh, hey, you know what? How about you just give us gas money and teleport us to Florida and we'll leave you alone? What?
Yeah, there's some iffiness with the finale at times. Um, but like I said, I think
Come
season
on,
two.
dude.
I feel like season 2 was a better closing point for Ash, though.
True. Yeah, I'll give you that too. Although, too, going back to season 1, this hands down has, in my opinion, the funniest scene of the whole franchise. And that's why you got trick knee, bump shoulder, fake teeth, soft balls. Like, that to me is what the morgue scene is to Seanie Boy. I was howling with laughter when I saw that scene.
But I got so excited too because it had been so. I didn't expect to see Evil Ash back, and it's just even more of an asshole. Oh man, I just like I said, that first season was so good. All 3 seasons are really good. It just felt really good to see my old friend Ash back after so many years. Like he just more than delivered. So I'm like, man, this is the good shit. Like I wish I wish Evil Dead could have captured a broader audience with that show. Because some shows are so crappy and they get such huge audience ratings. I'm like, why aren't more people into Evil Dead? It's funny. It's
Blame stars.
yeah, stars. Like Walking Dead went on for 15 seasons or whatever, and people that used to be the
11.
highest. 11. Well, they have the spin-off shows and that, so I'm saying 15, and then it should have ended a long time ago. There's some series
Agreed.
that just go way past their expiration date. Like remember when that was the top show on TV, and then everyone just still fucking going on. Yeah, they should have ended it
So,
season 5 or 6 or whatever. But anyways, so
yeah, I know what your number one is.
I mean, come on. Army of Darkness. I find it really funny that my number one. See, I paused, so I let you burp, so you didn't interrupt me while I was talking. My number one, of course, is Army of Darkness. It's one of my top 10 favorite movies of all time. I love every second of this movie. It's hokey, it's cheesy. This is where Ash became Ash, I want to say. Because Evil Dead 2 was a good stepping stone, but the iconic one line spewing machine of Bruce Campbell was really born here. Ash is so entertaining in every sequence he's in. It's cheesy, it's got elements of the Three Stooges. It's extremely funny. Ash is such a moron that he screws up the 3 words to summon the book, and he thinks he can just kind of wing it. The score is really good. The action scenes are a lot of fun. Yes, it doesn't really have the gory elements, but they kind of take a different approach. They set the tone right away that this is more of a swashbuckling action adventure film, which for some Evil Dead fans is a little bit off-putting. But since I've always kind of grown up watching this movie, it doesn't bother me like it did with Evil Dead Rise, because Evil Dead Rise was going for that gory bits. This one, Sam Raimi, I guess, was they were trying to make it more PG-13, but they couldn't trim it down any further. But it's still a very entertaining film. Like I said, the ending, I actually like the theatrical cut ending better than the director's cut ending, because we never did get the follow. Every time they try to go post-apocalyptic, it doesn't go well. But the final
Which
scene,
makes no sense. that would be like kind of perfect marriage for this kind of thing. But whatever.
Yeah, every time they try to do it with season 3 of Ash vs Evil Dead, it's always the third movie, right? Notice that 3 and 3 they go post-apocalyptic, never works out, and I think
Maybe the
that's
next movie will finally crank down on that.
yeah, because like I said, that's like the thing Sam Raimi's really kind of wanted to do for a while, but just never got the chance to. But like I said, Ash is a big moron. Like he gets dumber as the movies go on, but it kind of works because he just becomes funnier and more of an asshole. He's so out of place in this time period. You have the mini Ashes that go and attack him. You have evil Ash that he fights. The memorable one lines. Give me some sugar, baby. If you ever watched the like, there's a funny like Bruce Campbell tells the story about how that line came to be. Sam Raimi, like, because they were supposed to shoot the line, there wasn't originally the line, "Give me some sugar, baby," but before they were going to shoot, like, Bruce was telling the story. He's like, "Where's Sam? We got to do this kiss scene or whatever." He's like, he goes over and he looks, he sees Sam Raimi, who's just giggling and laughing like a schoolgirl, like in the corner. He's like, he's like, "What's going on?" Like, I know what you're gonna say. He's like, "What are you gonna say?" He's like, he could be like, Sam Raimi apparently was like laughing his ass off at this stupid line that he had to make Bruce say, "Give me some sugar, baby." But like Bruce is like, "That's so stupid. I'm not gonna say it." But Sam kind of forced him to, and it became really iconic, anyways. But the one-liners, "Hail to the King, baby!" Like I love that S Smart scene at the end of the movie. I think it's badass, and it kind of like because we didn't get a follow-up for so many years, it feels like a good closure for the series in a way. Like Ash goes out, he's the badass. It's on a high note. But it is a
How the
really good.
hell does a lever action rifle hold 30 rounds?
It doesn't matter, Nick. All right, yo, she bitch, let's go.
Literally fires like fucking 20 or 30 rounds out of a, at best, 10-round capacity rifle.
So, and I really love the score too. Like I always listen to like some of the tracks too, like where they're building the traps, like do 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 do. Like it kind of ends on a triumphant note. Like it feels like a good closure for Ash since we didn't really get anything. I wouldn't have minded the director's cut ending if we actually got a follow up to it, but it feels more in line with Ash being a moron. But I kind of like he has a bit of a triumphant closure with Army of Darkness before we came back with Ash versus Evil Dead many years later. I just love the shit out of Army of Darkness. It's got the hokiness, it's got the badass actionery, the incredible one-liners. Ash is kind of like at his like most iconic, I feel, in that movie. I mean, when people think Ash, they really kind of think the one-line spewing like asshole. But like that's kind of what made him my favorite horror protagonist of all time is that movie. And then of course carrying that over into the Ash vs Evil Dead TV series, which is the perfect blend, I think, of Army of Darkness and Evil Dead 2's gore, but amped it up a little bit further. Like to me, that's perfect. Ash is like you said, like season 1 of the show is like Bruce Campbell's more refined as an actor and all that. But like I said, Army of Darkness. I mean, I'm literally wearing the shirt, so I
those in the 21st century.
So great, so fantastic. I love it.
So, ironically, yes, our favorites and least favorites are inverted. Shockingly, especially coming from me, I'm usually the guy that says the original or first of a series is never the best. But oddly for me, the original Evil Dead is my favorite of the Evil Dead series and is the one that I enjoy watching the most. This is a true strange one, especially for me.
I know you. What's wrong with you, Nick? You're actually liking the first movie most?
Well, a big part of it has to do with two things, and they both kind of have to do with each other. So my copy of the DVD has a commentary with Bruce Campbell, and it's a funny commentary, but it's also a very informative and inspirational commentary. But I really appreciate and just love researching the making of this movie, like the special kind of hell that the cast and crew went through making this damn movie. There's a whole documentary, like multiple documentaries have been made about the making of this film. And Bruce Campbell himself has actually written a book about his experience making the original Evil Dead. If Victoria was still here, she knows what it's called, but I don't.
Bruce has made a lot of books, but I mean, they went through hell making these movies.
Yes,
and the
they
shows.
did, especially with this one.
I mean, as Bruce would say, is like it's not fun to make; it's fun to watch. But he's a guy who's like dealt with that shit since he was younger. Like he's a tough guy. Like he doesn't mind putting up with shit, right? Like he can like because like I don't like a lot of actors who are really pampered. Bruce Campbell is not really that kind of guy. Like he's somebody who'll get his hands dirty and he'll go through some shit if it's for the sake of making a movie better.
Also too, I do think this movie, okay, yes, it's a rough movie. Like rough around the edges. It's very prototypey. It's very low budget. It's very amateurish, and at times it looks almost unfinished. But just for some reason, for me, all of those elements just kind of blend together perfectly to just make the not the perfect movie, but as far as Evil Dead is concerned, for me, it's just the best the series has to offer. And it's the one that I enjoy watching the most. It's just the one that works the strongest for me. I know that's, again, very strange coming from me, but miracles can happen sometimes. Sometimes. Very rarely, but sometimes. I do think the first time was the best.
It feels like the first time.
With all that being said, this was fun.
You know what? This is nice. We got to talk about like arguably my favorite horror series of all time. I got to rock this Ash shirt on camera for the first time since I met Bruce Campbell 2 weeks ago, which he's just as cool as you'd expect. Really loved his suit. In fact, you know what? Let me pop up this image on screen because not everyone's seen it. If anyone's still watching at this point, share screen. Window. All right, can it pop up on screen there, Nick? Just add it to the stream. Look at that. There he is. Look at him in his glory. Look at that cool suit. Awesome guy. Awesome guy. But yeah, like I said, that was like 2 weeks ago. Just as cool as you'd expect. So I had to pop it up on screen because I met Bruce Campbell. Like, how can I not want to share that?
Lucky. Anyway, so anything to plug?
Well, I've been making a lot of videos for comic book stuff lately. And then some after the movies. I just saw that new Dracula movie that came out this weekend. It actually wasn't half bad. Could have gone a little bit further in some things, but for the most part, it's better than I thought it would be.
I don't think I'm gonna like it quite as much as Renfield.
What's that?
I don't think I'm gonna like it as much as Renfield.
Renfield was a lot better. Renfield's a lot of fun. Nick Cage.
Foreshadowing is foreshadowing. Moving on.
But yeah, so I got that. I got to finish editing this G-Fest video. I've really only kind of started it. That was kind of like my little like vlog. Like, I mean, might as well post it a month later. Like, that's just how slow I am to kind of upload stuff anymore at this time. But so that's the next project I'm working on. And then, like I said, I'm still doing my comic book stuff right now. This is one event that DC has. It's like 5 issues in like one event, like every single week for 2 months. And it's been so many videos I had to pump out. Like I pumped out like 9 videos on Tuesday, Nick. 9 or 8. 8. Yeah. So I did 8 on Tuesday. Like that's just too much. I'll be glad when this event's over. I can kind of slow down on that and focus on other things. But yeah, I've been kind of an uploading machine, I feel like, as of late. I don't know if you like get notifications, but you can see I'm posting a lot of shit lately. So, but once that kind of like slows down a little bit, which it will, like once this month done, so I got that big video, and then you'll still see some after the movies, and then I'll get back to some more written stuff in the meantime. But I'm looking forward to getting back to that. So, I mean, Halloween Ends video will come out in like 2 months once October hits. I'm hoping to finish up the Hellraiser series, but I was kind of waiting for it to come out on Blu-ray, the newest one, so I could do a video on that. But I don't think it ever did.
No, it never will, unless you live in the UK.
Bastards. Well, Prey did come out on Blu-ray here in the States, I think, finally.
Nope.
Did it?
Nope.
Well, that's a bunch of horse shit. This is what I hate about streaming services. Like, oh, we can't release physical media on certain things. Fuck you. Yes, you can. You still never got the anime trilogy. Even though it's bad, I still want it for my completion for the collection.
Beside the point. So, go check out Seanie Boy's channel. He's got some comic book stuff on the way. And a whole bunch of other G-Fest and Halloween stuff on the way. Look forward to, because I think I am in somewhat of a horror movie mood, so I think I might have some more horror videos coming down the pipeline myself. I'm not going to promise anything,
I
but
know.
be on the lookout.
It's crazy, Nick, because we're like right on the verge of October already. Like this year is flown by so fast.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Post your comments down below and let me know what you think, and hit the like button and hit the subscribe button. Share this video with your friends. Go check out the Evil Dead series. Go check out Seanie Boy's channel. And remember 2 things.
Alamemnon, Conda, Alamemnon, Klaatu, Verada. Oh, sorry. I'm just trying to read this book right here. So I'll let you get back to what you're doing. So I'm just going to read this book out loud, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Just, okay. Just do what you got to do.
And remember to shop smart, shop smart. Stock up on supplies and stock up on boomsticks for whenever you come across dumbasses that want to read from a book centuries old, inked in blood, bound in human flesh. And I will see you guys in the next video.
Groovy.
Groovy.
Hail to the king, baby.